90-Day Fiance, a night that changed everything. The day started like any other, ordinary, unremarkable, even a little boring. Julia Trubkina and Brandon Gibbs woke up early, savoring their morning coffee in their cozy yet modest home. The sun spilled golden light through the windows as Brandon scrolled through his phone, cracking jokes about the neighbors, chatting about their plans for the evening. They had scheduled a simple dinner, a small escape from the chaos of everyday life. But fate had other plans. It started subtly, a slight tremor in his hand, a brief moment of dizziness. Brandon brushed it off with a chuckle, joking that he had just stood up too fast. But Julia noticed the way his smile wavered, the way his fingers massaged his temple, as if trying to ease some unseen discomfort. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. Yeah, I'm fine," he assured her, waving off her worry. But he wasn't fine. A few minutes later, mid-sentence, everything changed. His expression twisted in confusion. His hand shot to his chest. His breath caught in his throat. His eyes widened in sheer panic. "Brandon?" Julia's voice was sharp with alarm. His body convulsed, his limbs trembling as if suddenly no longer his own. Then a gasp. I can't breathe." And then silence. For a moment, he was utterly still, his body crumbling as his legs gave way. He collapsed onto the floor, motionless. The air in the room seemed to vanish. Julia's scream tore through the silence as she scrambled to his side, her hand shaking so violently that she nearly dropped her phone. Her fingers fumbled to dial 911. Her voice barely registered as she choked out the words. "My husband, he's not breathing. Please help." The following minutes bled together in a blur of flashing lights and frantic voices. Paramedics burst through the door, their commands sharp and urgent as they checked his pulse, performed compressions, and loaded him onto the stretcher. Julia trailed behind, her mind spinning as if she had been flung into a nightmare. None of this felt real. It couldn't be real. The ambulance ride was a storm of sirens, beeping monitors, and the distant hum of voices shouting medical jargon. Julia sat frozen, clutching Brandon's limp hand, whispering prayers she hadn't uttered in years. She barely noticed when they reached the hospital. The moment they wheeled him through the double doors, she was left standing, helpless. Nurses tried to calm her, but nothing made sense. Brandon had collapsed. Her husband had stopped breathing, and she didn't know if he was ever coming back. Time became meaningless in the waiting room. Each minute felt like an eternity. Her hands were clenched into fists, her body stiff with tension. She barely registered the other people around her. The crying child, the elderly man staring blankly at the floor, the young woman sobbing into her phone. She existed in a different world now, one where the only thing that mattered was the fate of the man she loved. Then, at last, a doctor appeared. Julia shot to her feet, so fast she almost lost her balance. The doctor's face was unreadable for a moment, making her stomach clench. "He's stable." The words nearly knocked her over. A sob of relief bubbled up in her throat as her knees buckled. "What happened?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. The doctor hesitated before answering. He suffered a severe panic attack. His body went into hyperdrive, and for a moment his heart almost stopped. Simply put, the stress was too much for him to handle. Julia's mind reeled. Brandon, the strong one, the one who always brushed off worry and pressure like it was nothing. It seemed impossible. But then she thought of everything he had been carrying. The unspoken burdens, the silent stressors she had overlooked. "Can I see him?" she pleaded. The doctor nodded. "He's weak, but he's been asking for you." Her feet carried her forward before she even realized she was moving. The room was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. Brandon lay pale against the hospital bed, wires and IVs snaking around him, his chest rising and falling with fragile effort. The sight sent another wave of panic crashing over her. She stepped forward hesitantly, then reached for his hand, gripping it tightly between her own. His fingers curled, weak but deliberate. His eyelids fluttered open, his lips parting in a small, tired smile. "Hey!" he rasped, his voice barely audible. A choked laugh slipped from Julia's lips, half a sob, half a prayer. "Hey, yourself." She would never take another ordinary, boring day for granted again. Julia sat frozen, her breath caught in her throat as she clutched Brandon's hand. He had been unresponsive for what felt like an eternity. Then, suddenly, his fingers twitched a subtle, almost ghostly movement. His eyelids fluttered, his lips parted as if trying to form words. "You promised me a dance tonight, after dinner," she whispered, her voice trembling with suppressed emotion. A faint smile ghosted across Brandon's lips, weak but unmistakable. "I haven't forgotten," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just need a rain check." A small, breathy laugh escaped Julia, but it quickly dissolved into a mix of laughter and tears. Relief washed over her, though it barely dulled the fear that still clung to her chest. "You scared me," she admitted, her voice cracking. "The doctor said it was a panic attack, that your heart almost stopped." Brandon swallowed hard, his atoms apple-bobbing. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never want to put you through this." "Don't apologize," she murmured, shaking her head. "Just focus on getting better. We still have so much to do together." She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his, inhaling his presence, reassuring herself that he was still here. His fingers curled weakly around hers, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she allowed herself to breathe. Julia never left his side. As the hours bled away, the rhythmic beeping of the monitors became the only sound in the sterile hospital room. The world outside faded, night swallowing the day. Her phone vibrated against the chair beside her, a steady stream of missed calls and unread messages.